All legendary yokai require 8 yokai to unlock. You must have all 8 of these yokai registered in the medallion and then interact with the corresponding medallion page at the back. The legend will then auto-befriend you. Some of these required yokai make sense, while others aren't so obvious at first glance. I'm going to try explain every required yokai for every legend in the main trilogy, as those are the games I've actually played. I'll get around to posters eventually. Alright, let's start with the Gen 1 legends. In Yokai Watch 1, these are the yokai required for Shogunyan. You may notice that these 8 cover all 8 original tribes. Most of them have some story significance. Tattletale, Shogunyan, Happy Air, Desmeralda, Draghi are all important to the story, and Leodoni is a scout in Terror Time. That leaves Mochismo and Castellius III. This sounds like a stretch, but trust me. Mochismo is there because of the fusion quest, as a need to befriend him and Uluma to unlock fusing. As for Castellius, I'm really not sure about this one. He has no relation to the story, but he is highly connected to fusion, as well as his line requires a lot of it to fill out. If any of you had a better Castellius explanation, please tell me because I'm not very confident in this theory. In Yokai Watch 2, the required yokai for Shogunyan were all important to the story in the first game. All but Insomnia were an auto-befriended one and had some plot relevance. Insomnia herself was a pretty iconic Gen 1 yokai and got a rank demotion, so she'd be fine for post-game. The same concept applies for 3, all 8 of the yokai for Shogunyan were important in 2, no exceptions. In Yokai Watch 1, these were the yokai required for Komashura. We can separate them into 4 pairs. Komain and Komajiro, Mad Mountain and Lava Lord, and Blazion and Quaken are all in the same families. QB and Casanova seem unrelated at first glance, but they both share the mysterious stripe and they're both ladies' men. I think that's reason enough. In Yokai Watch 2, all of the yokai required a fire attribute except Frazzle. Frazzle is here to make the player trade to the opposite version, as he and Firebreak are version exclusive. In 3, they're all dogs. Easy enough. These are the yokai required for Dandoodle in Yokai Watch 1. They're all Eerie tribe, and they probably just picked 8 random areas, none of them except Manjimot and maybe Everfor have a sort of connection with Dandoodle. In 2, things get a bit more complicated. Multimud is here for obvious reasons though. I think the rest of them are related to unhealthy relationships in some way. Shmoopy, Casanova and Ray Light represent meeting somebody and falling in love without thinking. Tattlecast represents unhealthy habits and rumours about your relationship. Bahadude represents arguments and maybe abuse. Screek represents depression and loneliness after the inevitable breakup. Lionheart represents accepting what happened and moving on. In 3, the yokai selection is a bit different, but also similar in concept. All the yokai here are somewhat attractive men, with Carnaboy, Casanova, QB and Ray all having close ties to relationships. Lapnut and Tank Original have the added benefit of pride. Whirlweasel and Thurston are the weakest links, but this will kind of fit. Alright, Elderbloom's yokai have always been really strange choices until you look further into them. These are the yokai in 1. My thinking is they all represent a perfect world. Hungramp, while being heavily connected to Bloom himself, also represents the loss of world hunger as everyone gets enough food in this perfect world. Bluminoko represents the loss of bad luck. Drump represents the nurturing of nature. Heal and Butterfly represent eternal happiness, and Castellius Max represents the loss of the divide between winning and losing. Tim and Devil are here as well, to show that there will never truly be a perfect world. Everything has flaws, and these 2 represent those flaws. Lemon 2, our perfect world is rid of those flaws. Nurse Strongest represents perfect health, Papillon Dungeon and Hainomi represent true happiness, Papa Windbag represents confidence, Rith represents fitness, Drump represents nature, and Static King represents unadulterated electric power without disrupting the environment. In 3, our perfect world remains somewhat intact. Great Pow is there for his connection to Elderbloom, as well as his great kindness. Old Fortune is also there for his kindness in giving nature. Green Cramps fills Drump's role of loving the environment. Forget-Me-Not represents hospitality. Vacuumery represents good memories and happy thoughts. Nandia represents enlightenment and true peace. And Quit is an odd choice, as is Tongue Twister. A perfect world won't be perfect forever. And these 2 are here to remind us that there will always be flaws similar to Timid Devil and Negasus. Now let's take a moment to look at Gilgros, Slurpent and Batang Q. They've all got the same yokai requirements in all the games they're in. Gilgros requires all the crank exclusives in the first game, and the others represent the 8 new exclusives in their respective games from the past crank and their dream reel respectively. Alright, now for the Gen 2 legends. Spoilerina's yokai all have plot relevance in her game, and she has the added side benefit of revealing herself in the medallion page before it's unlocked. In 2, Focappa, Palisolper, Predictable and Mermaiden are all part of the Nathaniel's or Kenny's original teams. Smogmella is part of the big battle of Flatbot Pains, as well as being in that one keep quest as Bad Smella. Murdox is incredibly important as he's the yokai used for time travel. Master Nyada and Demunch are both heavily tied to the endgame of the story, with Nyada's trials and all that. In 3, she requires Little Charmer and Silver Lining as are the leaders of the Yokai hero teams. Trader is active on Kainet and one of the first befriends on Haley's side. Blazion is an auto-befriend for the building of the rocket. Wepper is working at Haley's detective agency and is also an auto-befriend. Comsan and Komajiro are auto-befriends and are heavily present after Chapter 6. Finally, Burley runs the Blaster's house, which is very relevant in the last 2 chapters. Professor's Yokai in 2 are so strange. Like, what? What do any of these have to do with Professor? Well, you clicked on this video for explanations, so I guess I'll try my best. I think they all have connections to children in some way. Professor himself uses a sort of childish humour with his shit stick. Jigsaw and Pidgeot also use the idea of childish humour. Grandpa represents either a teen's huge appetite, I can relate, or a child being picky. Daze represents children having poor attention spans. Snartle beats up naughty children. Stepper represents children's activeness, which can occasionally include dancing. QB and Venoct are the outliers here, but I think they represent growing up and maturing, as these two are elite yokai. In 3, they all represent generally bad or gross things and habits. Dismorella represents depression, Usbocrates represents talking without thinking, Mosquito represents the annoyance of mosquitoes and itchiness, Spirit represents sickness, Cotton Cheese represents obnoxious farting, Snottle represents nose picking, and Shedwin represents getting hair everywhere. Now finally the Gen 3 legends, and these are all pretty easy to explain. Asura has all Tempura exclusives, Princess Pearl has all Sushi exclusives, and Wyvern King has all Sukiyaki exclusives, for the most part. The exception is Dragon Lord, who is himself a powerful, wise and royal draconic being like Wyvern King. And that's all the legends from the main trilogy and their unlock requirements explained. I'm really proud of some of the explanations, especially my LW and Perfect World Theory. Hope you enjoyed and have a good day.